Maybe it wasn't his wish that made your leg feel better, said Nettle that night as Nettle and Bracken lay in bed in the spare room. Or maybe everybody gets some wishes, not just you. But we can't take chances, said Bracken. I'm not sure exactly how it all works out, but we have to be wise. We can't just go wishing this and that. He wasn't just wishing this and that. He wanted you to fly again. I know, said Bracken. The wind moaned and whistled through the eaves of the old house. The loose tin on the barn roof banged back and forth. I think Ben's lonely here, said Bracken. His wife died 3.5 years ago, he told me. And he's never been out west, he said. He's glad to be going. He's a nice human, Ben, said Nettle. I get the feeling there are a lot of nice humans, you know? Yes. Bracken, have you ever thought, well, that if we make it to the other world, you'll be sorry to leave Ben behind? Yes, said Bracken. And your friend, too, Elizabeth? I think I would have liked her. The next day they sat in the truck and rode and rode and rode. When it was dark, Bracken got out and checked the stars, and figured out what she thought was the right direction, just a little south, but still mostly west, so when they reached the mountains, they would be near the valley. Day came, and then, at last, mountains appeared on the horizon. They were a deep purple blue, with towering clouds riding low above them. It almost seemed as though the mountains were clouds, and the clouds were mountains. Bracken looked at them for a long time. This is the right direction. The outline of the peaks, that's the way I remember them. Sometimes as the hours passed, Bracken would brush a finger on the woodfolk beads, not to wish, but just to touch them. Every time she did, Nettle sighed heavily. Stop it, said Bracken. You have a seeking stone, don't you? Don't be greedy. Well, you have a seeking stone and a necklace, said Nettle. And I got shot, said Bracken. You didn't get shot. Your leg is fine now, said Nettle, and you have a raccoon. He's not my raccoon, said Bracken. Well, he likes you better. I rescued him, said Bracken. Which was true, thought Nettle gloomily. But on the other hand, she'd gotten to meet Elizabeth, and remembering that, she felt better. When they got to the foothills, they followed a dusty gravel road that wound up and up until the sagebrush gave way to tall pines and the air began to smell like home. The road got bumpier. Rocks banged against the bottom of the pickup truck. Soon, the truck seemed to make more and more noise in order to get anywhere. Then finally, it stopped. End of the road, said Ben. He opened what was called the glove compartment, took out some papers, and stuffed them into his pocket. He got out and walked to the front of the truck. He took down the little metal sign with letters and numbers, the license plate, it was called, then walked to the back and removed the other one, too. He walked a little way off and hid the license plates under a rock, then returned. It was all part of Ben's idea, the one they would use if Nettle and Bracken's plan failed. Nettle and Bracken laid out a hammock between their two broomsticks and tied the ends fast. Ben climbed into the hammock and the raccoon jumped behind Bracken onto her broomstick. Nettle wished he could ride behind her on her broomstick, but she didn't say anything. Ready? asked Bracken. I guess so, said Ben, holding tight. Sure. They lifted off. They found their way to the pass with only a few hesitations and wrong turns. They soared through and landed just inside the valley. Ben and the raccoon scrambled to the ground. Ben stood for a minute gazing out over the valley. Then he and the raccoon sat down with their backs against a rock to wait. It will take a while for the coven to decide, Bracken told them. Witches aren't supposed to have leaders, though Rose is, really. We're supposed to decide things in consensus, which always means a lot of bickering and discussing every last point. Good luck, said Ben. Nettle and Bracken soared down the slopes and over the least and middle meadows. Home! Nettle gave a little bounce on her broomstick. They sped toward the village. Look, said Nettle, pointing. High on the ledge, where Toadflax's cottage had stood, black, pointed hats bobbed this way and that among piles of fallen stone. Scabiosa was the first to look up. They're back! Oh, look, everyone, look, they're alive! She cried. We found the door, said Nettle, landing amid the commotion. Everybody, we found the door to the other world. You did? Said Scabiosa in the sudden silence. The others began murmuring and exclaiming. Toadflax told us you had gone to look for it, said Rose quietly. We thought we'd never see you again. We went to a city on the great river and we found it, said Nettle. It's in a giant oak near a safe house. A city? Said Rose, looking at them both closely. We're fine, said Nettle. Bracken, said Rose. I'm all right, said Bracken. We think something may have happened to Toadflax, said Rose. We looked up this morning and her house had fallen down. Her magic is gone. We think she might be dead. She is, said Nettle. Then Bracken told them what had happened. She was a fine witch once, said Scabiosa quietly. She wasn't always like that, not in the old days before humans grew so powerful. It made her bitter. It ate away her heart. There have been 3 more humans since you left, said Rose. 2 of them got as far as the middle meadow. They trampled a big path through the meadow, said Violet glumly, muddy footprints filled with water. But we don't have to worry about it anymore. We can get away. We have woodfolk beads, said Nettle. The others looked startled. Toadflax gave them to Bracken. Toadflax had a woodfolk necklace? Said Violet. Why, that's selfish, deceptive. Never mind that, Violet, said Sedge. Think what it means to have woodfolk beads. We can wish ourselves back to the door to the other world, said Nettle. And we know how to get through. We know the spell. It will only take a minute. We can whisk you right through before you turn to dust. I'm sure we can. There was a short silence. I'm not taking a chance on being turned into dust, thank you very much, said Violet. But it's a new world, a new life, said Nettle. Nobody said anything. Don't you want to go? Asked Nettle. It's not the easiest choice in the world, said Scabiosa finally. I don't want to leave the valley, said a quiet voice. It was Gentian, a kind but timid witch who rarely said anything at the gathering fires. I don't either, said Pensimon softly. Pensimon was another witch who hardly ever said anything, and sometimes didn't even come to the gathering fires. But Gentian, Pensimon, all of you, said Rose, think about it. A whole new world. That's the chance we have. I'll go, said Sedge. I will, said Reed. I won't, said Violet, looking around at the others. You would miss out on the door to the other world? Said Nettle, incredulous. Violet frowned. You say there's a door, but you're only a witchling. Nettle sighed.